Every day at this border crossing, there are scenes of intense relief. Anna Mikhailovna, who is 95, is reunited with her daughter in Ukraine after nearly 3 years under Russian occupation.
Oh, it was a very hard journey, very hard. We had to go all the way around.
The shortest route now for residents of Russian-occupied parts of Ukraine to get back to government-held territory is out into Russia via Crimea or Mariupol, then by bus or train into Belarus, and from there into this northwestern corner of Ukraine. As the last of her family to leave, Anna Mikhailovna didn't mind being filmed. But most travellers wish to remain anonymous, in case the Russians decide to punish relatives they've left back home.
They're scared to let people leave, especially men. We made up a story about some temporary work in Russia, but we're never going back as long as the Russians are there.
Life under Russia is impossible. There are no hospitals, kids have to travel miles to school, and it's the Russian curriculum. And they make them write on all their homework, "Thank you to the Russian soldiers for the fact that I'm alive."
Volunteers at the border offer refreshments and help with onward travel.
Знаю зараз за 7 людей. А от мені навіть за них пишуть, що білоруси сказали всім з російськими паспортами тільки бути. Без паспортів РФ оформляти не будуть. Новшество.
Білорусі треба, щоб було...
Не, пускають.
Пускають.
They think up all kinds of ways to try to stop people coming here. But there are people who are willing to help. We're just one small link in that chain.
The family from Kherson wait for the others to arrive before boarding Serhi's minibus.
2.5 years we've been waiting. Occupation's like prison. You're not in prison, but you might as well be. You can't go anywhere, you can't do anything.
People escaping the occupied territories paint a grim picture of life there. In sharp contrast with local propaganda channels, they're full of sunshine and stories of economic and cultural revival. Irina Semenyuta has been monitoring them for a Kiev-based media watchdog.
We soon noticed a lot of young faces.
The occupational authorities have created special media schools, teaching young people what Russia calls journalism.
Политика президента Владимира Путина позволила заново раскрыть потенциал России и ее народа, что является...
When she started working for them, she was only 16. The young people they train in those media schools get given jobs immediately. Not many experienced journalists over there were willing to collaborate with the Russians. But young people who don't have experience, they're ambitious. They want rapid career development.
At a recent media forum in Kiev, where Irina presented her findings, there was much talk of how effective that Russian propaganda is, including at splitting families. Victoria left her home in Luhansk region just before it fell to the Russians. Her father stayed behind and started to change.
For the first year and a half, we were in agreement that this war was because Russia attacked us. But lately, when I call him, it's a different story. He says things like, "They'll be coming for you soon. Our soldiers will liberate you."
When people are subjected to those messages 24/7, it's not surprising that they repeat them to their loved ones.
Irina admits that many of those now living in areas under Russian control believe the propaganda. And for those who can't be won over that way, there is violence. Danilo Mokrik is welcoming filmgoers to the premiere of his new documentary, which recounts several cases of murder and torture in just one small Kherson region town.
We see the story of this town as a microcosm for the whole occupied part of Kherson region.
With no access to the town, the film uses shadow play to recreate its sinister atmosphere, as victims' relatives who got out tell their stories.
Що там дитина моя терпіла, я навіть представити цього. І в мене в глазах оце перед мною, що його вбивають.
Harrowing, the film receives rapturous applause.
What you showed there is the absolute truth, and it is very, very painful.
There may not be videos of mass graves as in Bucha, But what information does filter out indicates that violent repression continues across the occupied areas.
Often when we talk about war crimes, we talk about those of 2022. It gives the impression it all stopped in 2022, and that's not true. The Russian army's war crimes have not stopped.
And yet they are rarely mentioned in discussions about possible territorial concessions in exchange for peace.
It would be honest at a minimum when we talk about exchanging our territory to say, yes, we agree to exchange these people. We agree to condemn these thousands of people to a life of terror.
Until recently, most Ukrainians still hoped that their army could force the Russians out. Today, the army is losing ground, and that hope is giving way to fear that yet more Ukrainian towns and cities, like this one, Russification in Donetsk region, could fall into Russian hands.